Does internet porn know you're cheating on it?
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing some news articles again. This time also from Park Place and also from Pirates and Princesses. If you don't know, Pirates and Princesses is Clownfish TV on YouTube, and that Park Place is mostly led by WD Pro and Trent Report. I don't watch much of Trent Report, but I do know WD Pro, and I think they're out of the two, they're the ones more in charge of the site. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it's a joint effort. Anyways, uh, today we have three articles, two from that Park Place, one from Pirates and Princesses, two revolving around Disney. But this first one here, just a quick one. We all pretty much knew it was coming, and that's the Hogwarts Legacy sequel officially in development. I mean, come on, we've known this for a long time, but there was some interesting tidbits I heard revolving around this that I'm pretty sure the article will touch on, so we'll get to that. Some of the people at Variety report Warner Brothers Games is at work on a video game sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, which is a very big priority for Warner Brothers Discovery C-suite. Yeah, I would assume it is. It was the best-selling game of, was it last year? And then this year, the best-selling one was Wukong, I believe. Yeah, that's right. Because last year it even beat out Call of Duty, which hasn't happened for years. A game hasn't toppled that. And just like Wukong, it's getting snuffed for the Game Awards. But most people know that the Game Awards are basically a sham run by the Access Journalism. So, and anyways, let's continue on. President of Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, David Haddad, informed the duo, "We have known for some time that fans are looking for more things in this world, and so we're spending a lot of time thinking about that. I hope they have an idea for DLC. Like, it's been a long time now. It's kind of weird that they didn't cash in on at least like some sort of expansion. Our insights tell us that there are not huge distinctions between a younger version of a fan and an older version of a fan. Well, at least they understand that much. They're just deep Harry Potter fans, and we try to build authentic experiences to delight them." And yeah, I don't know if it's going to touch on this, probably not, but the majority of fans don't give a shit about J.K. Rowling, the controversies, so-called controversies, let's be honest, and just anything involving that. People just like the IP. They get sucked into it. The game was enjoyable. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but I bought it day one, not just because of the controversies and just being on the opposite side of that, but how often does a game come along that's involving like witchcraft and wizardry and you have like a wand to fight? I just thought it was kind of like a cool concept. And even though the underlining gameplay was something we've seen like a million times before, it was just like a unique setting and just the concept of battling with wands and all that. I just thought that was cool. I just wish they kind of went down the path, the like a further down like where you can choose to go down the evil path compared to the good path. It was very linear. Like there wasn't many evil choices to make, and I was hoping to kind of. I know it's more of a kid's property, but I was kind of hoping to go like all Commander Shepard Renegade style. But yeah, that didn't happen. So I was hoping there was more depth to like the death curses and such. This report is unsurprising given the success of Hogwarts Legacy, and Warner Brothers Discovery CFO Gunnar comments at Bank of America's 2024 Media, Communications and Entertainment Conference, where he said, "Obviously, a successor to Hogwarts Legacy is one of the biggest priorities in a couple of years down the road." So a couple of years. Couples usually two, so Hmm. I would say that's coming soon, but considering it came out last year and then they reuse assets for sequel, generally the first game takes longer to develop, so about 4 years. Yeah, that sounds about right. He added, "So there is certainly a significant growth contribution from that games business in our strategic outlook here." Well, yeah, Warner Brothers hasn't been doing the best. The biggest failure being Suicide Squad. The game was a massive success for Warner Brothers Discovery, selling over 22 million copies in just 2023 alone, and I think it's hit over 30 million now. We'll see if the article says anything about that. At the beginning of January, Haddad praised, but it's not just the units sold that I'm so proud of, it's just that it delighted the fans so much. Yeah, and even non-fans alike, like I said. As much as I was sick about going into another open world game with just like all the check marks everywhere, yeah, it was good. Like I said, it was pretty unique for me. Not huge into the Harry Potter, but it was great. He added it brought Harry Potter to life in a new way for gamers where they could be themselves in this world and this story, and that's what the team at Avalanche set out to do when they were developing the game, and I think that's really why it resonated so well and remains the best-selling game of the year in the entire industry worldwide. That's a position that typically is held by one of these incumbent sequels games, and we're proud that we've been able to break into the top ranks. Not just the top ranks, they literally were the top game, like in terms of both units sold and I think financial success of last year, 2023. So I believe the game two was, yes, it was developed over multiple years, of course, like 5 or 6 years, but it didn't have the budget that a lot of other AAA games. It was pretty much, especially if you look at the studio who made it, it was the not the typical Avalanche that everyone knows, but it's like the other Avalanche that worked on Skylanders or something. But anyways, they had closer to like a double A budget with the game. I don't know why. It's Harry Potter after all. It was obviously going to be big, but it seemed like they had the people behind it, specifically Warner Brothers, had no like hope for the game, or they weren't expecting it to be as big as it was, which is just crazy. Anyways, let's continue on. One interesting note from the Variety Report is that Haddad shared that the success of Hogwarts Legacy is influencing HBO's upcoming Harry Potter live action TV series, hopefully for the best. Because it kind of the show kind of sounds like a mess right now, and we'll still have to see. There's not too much information on it, but what's there is kind of worrisome. Haddad says the game's team has been coordinating some of the big picture storytelling elements in the Hogwarts Legacy sequel, with storylines that will play out in the Harry Potter HBO series coming from Warner Brothers Television. Okay, so storytelling elements in the sequel. Okay, so maybe not with the first game. I guess that makes sense. But that's kind of worrisome because Harry Potter already has its story, and the books are detailed enough. Being books as they are, you can easily just stretch them out without filler to fill up an entire TV series easily. So I don't know why they would need additional storylines. That's kind of worrisome. From Hogwarts Legacy sequel, they should just be telling the Harry Potter books. And then if they want to do something like a spin-off or another series or a side series, that makes sense. Like just maybe Hogwarts Legacy TV series by itself. That would make sense. But they shouldn't horn that into the Harry Potter HBO series. On top of the sequel, there was a rumor that Warner Brothers is also developing a Hogwarts Legacy Definitive Edition. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. It features an additional 10 to 15 hours of content. I did not know that, actually. I haven't really kept up with it. I just figured it would be a standalone game that you have to pay for all over again. Maybe on PC, you upgrade for $10 to $15. I think that was last one that I can think of that did that was Death Stranding. It was like a $10 upgrade. Claims that this definitive edition is in development and that it will be sold as a separate DLC for those with the existing game. Okay, yeah, there we have it. Okay, that's good. So like an upgrade package or a separate like expansion. That's good. Don't have to buy it all over. He also shared that the 10 to 15 hours of additional content will include a new story quest. A new story quest? I hope it's multiple. For 10 to 15 hours, yeah, it has to be. Side quests, activities, and outfits. Okay. And I believe that's it. What do you make of Warner Brother Games reportedly greenlighting a sequel? Well, we kind of knew that for a long time already. And yeah, it's kind of good that they confirmed that we're getting like probably about a dozen more hours of content for the game that people have it, like a small expansion. Um, Hopefully, with the sequel, they don't go too far into the live service thing. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on that. Eh, Any news is great. Like I said, not a huge Harry Potter fan. I was one of the millions and millions of people that just bought it. Just a casual player going in and just enjoying something a little bit different. Not fighting with the classic swords or guns. It's wand battles. I mean, I always look for something different, even if I'm not necessarily into it. I always like to dabble in a little bit of everything, and I just, even if the concept kind of sounds different or kooky to me, or maybe it's in a genre I don't generally love, I'll still give a game a chance if it really like does something different or looks enticing. Anyways, let's move on to the two main stories I wanted to get to, and these are both Disney related. Um, well, I wanted to cover this one. First of all, the three Spider-Men will be forced to fight in Secret Wars. We all knew they were going to bring back the three. I think everyone was hoping to get Spider-Man 4 with Tobey and or an Amazing Spider-Man 3, but I don't know. MCU being MCU, of course, they're just going to try to retread what already worked. So, yeah, let's catch up on the news with this. And unlike a lot of people, just a little bit of background information. I loved the original Toby movies. Of course, who didn't? I did appreciate the third one more than a lot of people, mostly like the goofy nature. And I saw a lot of people hated it, but I saw what it was. It was intentionally trying to be goofy, so I didn't mind that side of it. And it's blown into this whole pretty much meme. What's he called? Bully Maguire? Yeah, it's just you you can't have that nowadays. Like you have to have the third movie. It plays such a big part into just pop culture in general. Like third movie is what it is, but I'm glad we got it, to be honest. Yes, it has problems, but yeah. Anyways, that's what I think of the Toby ones. For Andrew Garfield, I did recently rewatch them because I wasn't sure. Because initially I didn't hate them as much as other people, but I wasn't in love with them. So I did decide recently to rewatch them. Another reason I chose this article, but I just the first movie was way better than I remember it being. Like I think it might be one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. The first Amazing Spider-Man. There's a couple missteps, and that's with the Andrew Garfield ones in total. Like there's little details that they switch for the sake of switching that don't stick to the comic book story. But when you look at the way the movies are shot and the way certain stories play out and a lot of like the character interactions, they're ripped straight from the comics, much more than I remember them being. So when I rewatched the first one, like I was flabbergasted by how well it holds up, and it's just amazing. And the second one too, like it has a lot of faults, but it has some of the highest high points I think in all the Spider-Man films. Um, minus No Way Home is still probably my top favorite. That could be nostalgia, I don't know, but I thought the story was just great. The few missteps I had for the second Amazing Spider-Man film were mostly like some of the character designs, mostly Electro and Rhino. Luckily, Rhino wasn't in there much, so no big deal. But honestly, upon like this rewatching, I realized just how much more comic book accurate it was. Like I was one of the defenders, especially of the whole Gwen death and how it was shot, because it was literally ripped out of the comics shot for shot. Like they did amazing recreating it. I don't know why everyone flew off the handle at it or thought it was complete garbage, but it was exactly how it was shot and portrayed in the comics. And I absolutely loved the end of that movie. And I thought it was done so well. And like the theme of hope throughout the movie, yeah, it was great. Maybe not like peak cinema or anything, but for a superhero movie and just Spider-Man in general, yeah, it was pretty great. So I just, I don't know. Go back and rewatch the Amazing Spider-Mans. I think they're better than most people give them credit for. I will say this, and I've always said this: Tobey Maguire is absolutely the best nerdy Peter Parker. But they don't really show his like scientific side too much, and I think that's where it falters. And his Spider-Man's good, don't get me wrong, but Andrew Garfield is by far the best, like in suit, not just the way that they shot it, but like his quips and the way that he uses his environment, and like even when he's not in uniform, the way he kind of experiments and comes up with gadgets, that sort of thing. It felt way more in line with what Peter Parker is in the comics and has always traditionally been. So to me, Andrew Garfield is definitely the bigger and the better Spider-Man, but Tobey Maguire, I think, is the better Peter Parker, because Andrew Garfield, one of the biggest problems is he didn't really pull off the whole nerd thing or the geek thing properly, and he always looked a bit too old and out of place. I don't know. That's just my opinion, but yeah. And then what's his name? Tom Holland. He was kind of in between. I didn't hate his Peter Parker, didn't hate his Spider-Man. I thought he did well for each, but he never hit the peaks that Toby or Andrew Garfield hit for me. He never set his own path, basically. He was always tied to the MCU's, in particular Tony Stark. And we never really got that movie. We got it with No Way Home. Of course, he was untied from Tony Stark. Yeah, enough of my Spider-Man rant. That's just kind of like some backstory and how I feel and my connection to this. And I've been there. I was one of those people, day one in the theater, Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire. I've seen pretty much all of them in theaters when they first came out. So the following report is a rumor. Please take the following story with a grain of salt. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. After the release of Avengers Endgame, the Marvel Cinematic Universe admittedly hasn't been drawing the kind of numbers it used to. That's an understatement. A number of projects were impacted by the COVID pandemic. Many of its recent projects have either been poorly received or outright underperformed at the box office. Yeah, except for No Way Home. And yeah, the only real runaway success was No Way Home, which brought together 2 decades worth of Spider-Man films in one package. Deadpool and Wolverine also did rather well and also had a multiverse storyline. Bring back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Also killed it. Now with the multiverse saga drawing to a close with Secret Wars. I said it before and I'll say it again. No Way Home should have been the reason the multiverse kind of opened and exploded, and they should have focused it on like Doctor Strange and Peter Parker. Now, with the multiverse saga drawing to a close in 2027 with Avengers Secret Wars, we could probably expect to see a number of other multiverse appearances, even bringing back characters we may have thought were permanently gone. Oh boy. Robert Downey Jr. returning as Doctor Doom is a good example. Oh, yeah, there's probably going to be many more. According to known insider, My Time to Shine H on X, the answer is yes, but not in a way some may expect. In a response to a gif of the three Spider-Men hugging near the end of No Way Home, they stated they'll be forced to face off against each other in Secret Wars. That's not good. The bro ship was one of the best parts of it. We don't get many bro ships, which is why one of my favorite movies from, as it said, No Way Home was from 2021. I think that was my favorite of 2021, but I think RRR also came out in 2021, but it didn't reach Western theaters till like 2022. Because I remember RRR was my favorite movie of 2022, and that was also like an amazing bromance. Probably the best, I want to say one of the best bromances ever seen on film. Probably even better, I might get some hate from this, probably even better than Rocky and Apollo from the Rocky movies. But yeah, that was Ooh, that movie still sticks in my mind. I love that movie so much. If you haven't seen RRR, specifically the Telugu um, version of it, don't watch the Hindi version of Netflix. They butcher so much stuff in it. But yeah, go watch the Telugu version if you haven't. Well, nothing has been confirmed over the story, what the story will be, or what actors will appear in this epic crossover. It would definitely be a rather sad thing to see this trio fight each other exactly after they formed a brotherly bond the last time they saw each other. Exactly. I didn't even read a part. I was just going off my own experience. What do you think? Will Holland be forced to fight his counterparts in Secret Wars? Let us know your thoughts. Oh, yeah, that is not really a good sign. I don't think anyone wants to see him. I think the bromance and the nostalgia were definitely the best part of No Way Home. And seeing all these people together and just kind of getting along and maybe even catching up with their life. Toby, in regards to MJ, like small little nods. Yeah, they kind of eventually work things out. And of course, Andrew Garfield and what happened with Gwen and him overcoming that. That was definitely great. But bringing them back just to fight each other. And let's move on to the final article for today. And well, let's read the title. X-Men Dark Phoenix and the 355 writer Simon Kinberg to pen new trilogy of Star Wars movies with Kathleen Kennedy producing. Ooh. Okay, where do I start with this one? This is the main article that I wanted to get to. And why is that? It actually has nothing to do with Disney or Star Wars, to be honest. But it continues to show their incompetence. And that is the writer, Simon Kinberg. If you asked anyone, where would the first point of contention or fallout be of the original X-Men movies? I think most people will agree that the first two movies are absolutely amazing. But the third, complete trash fire. And why was that? Who was in charge of that? Who was the writer? Is none other than Simon Kinberg. And you're saying, wait, X-Men Dark Phoenix, that wasn't X-Men 3 with the Dark Phoenix storyline? And you're correct, it wasn't. So what happened after this guy ruined the X-Men trilogy with the trash fire that was X-Men 3 and completely butchered the Phoenix storyline that everybody absolutely hated and was waiting for years after like the teaser at the end of X2? Well, what normally happens in Hollywood, you fail upwards. And when it came around time again for the X-Men First Class, like that version of X-Men to get to the Dark Phoenix, what did they do? They hired the one guy who ruined it before. And what happened? Big surprise. He ran it into the ground again. He was responsible for not just one, but two X-Men series for failing. And this was after they did X-Men Days of Future Past, which most people agreed, even if you hated like the time travel stuff, and I know a lot of people do, but it basically fixed and set in motion and kind of like fixed the mistakes of that. So they went ahead with Days of Future Past. They set everything right and everything was rosy, but they couldn't leave well enough alone. So what did they do? They hired back the same guy, like I said, that destroyed X-Men 3 because they were going to write, I guess, another Dark Phoenix story. And not only did he ruin it, but he basically wrote the same exact story, except worse, that he did before. Your opinion can differ a little bit, but no one can say that that movie was written well or was a success or any better. I would actually say X-Men 3 was much better than even X-Men Dark Phoenix. So I have a lot of contention and kind of artistic hate towards this guy because of his constant failing upwards. And now He's going to pen a new trilogy of Star Wars movies. This guy consistently fails. I'm not sure what the 355 is. Maybe it's a success, but this guy, ooh, he ruined the same franchise twice, and Disney owns the X-Men now. So to have this guy still employed by them, well, I guess it's no surprise because Kathleen Kennedy is behind it, and she's notorious for making the most horrible decisions, canceling all these projects, hiring the worst people, or hiring great people and running them out of the project because of artistic differences, which we all know is just her being difficult to work with, and them not actually having say in the project that they're writing. But yeah, let's get into this. A new report claims that Simon Kinberg, the writer for box office disasters like Dark Phoenix and the 355. Oh, so 355 was a disaster. Yeah. They also forgot to put in X-Men 3, also a disaster. So, who was this? Trent? I doubt he'll ever see this, but go back and edit this. Put in X-Men 3. That was the douchebag that was responsible for a lot of bad stuff that happened in X-Men 3. He was either the lead writer or the consulting person behind it. Anyways, will pen a new trilogy of Star Wars films. It will be produced by Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. No surprise, because she is severely incompetent at her job. And like most of Hollywood, continues to fail upward, just like that writer. This trilogy will comprise episodes 10 to 12 of the Skywalker saga. I have to stop right there. It is not the Skywalker saga. It is the Palpatine saga. She is not a Skywalker. Just like the Emperor, she destroyed the Skywalker family. And she's just kind of using it for her own ends at this point. She's just taking the name and making it her own. It's just, oh, those movies are horrible. Let's not get into it either. However, he also noted that insiders disputed my intel that Kinberg will continue the storyline. Saying this instead will be in a new saga. I think that's been a misprint, and sit alongside percolating Star Wars projects with James Mangold and all the other ones. There's a lot more names too that's not listed there that have kind of failed or fell through. While Fleming notes that Charmin and Taika Waititi movies are percolating, it's likely these films are dead. Yeah, including like the Rian Johnson ones and all the other ones they've announced and all the Marvel ones that have been redone or unannounced. So Disney is such a wreck. Back in August, Matt McGloin at Cosmic Book News reported that Waititi's film was not happening. Also not a surprise, especially after his failure, like you can see from the photo, Love and Thunder. Yeah. Still have yet to watch that. I just have no love for Phase 4 outside of Guardians 3, No Way Home, and the Guardians Holiday Special. Again, if you haven't seen the Holiday Special, go see it. The second or third best film by far of Phase 4, and I guess Phase 5, because that's what they're on right now, and they're still doing horribly. He reported conversations I've had with insiders at the recent Comic-Con have informed me that Taika Waititi is definitely not doing a Star Wars movie at Lucasfilm. He adds, I was also actually told by this insider that Leslie Headland is done at Lucasfilm. As for why Waititi is out, McGowan's insider informed me it was due to Love and Thunder, and specifically that Waititi didn't actually finish the movie. Ooh, I did not. Is that actually what happened? Either way, he went to Waititi. He's one of those people like George Lucas. They're better on a leash. They're better when some of they're thrown out there, but they have someone overlooking the project and kind of reining them in a bit. McGloin detailed that his insider informed him that the film was a complete disaster and that Marvel gave him the boot from the movie. Furthermore, McGloin explained, I was also told Waititi didn't finish the reshoots in the final cut of the movie. He speculates that Marvel finished the film themselves rather than bringing in a new director. That would explain why it's even more of a mess than normal. Gloin then declared, "My insiders have said as a result that Taika Waititi is out of Lucasfilm and not doing a Star Wars movie." You have to play ball if you want, which is why they, going back to Spider-Man, that's why they canceled the third Spider-Man, because who was it in charge of Sony at the time? But Andrew Garfield at the time was doing press for Amazing Spider-Man 2, and he like called in sick or something. This was big news at the time, and the Sony president was just sick of him as a person and doing all these cancellations, even though the guy was sick and he couldn't really attend all these press meetings. Anyways, he basically got fired, and then the boss took a personal vendetta against him. This is what was reported at the time, and he canceled Amazing Spider-Man 3. It had nothing to do with how well or how badly the movies were received, because they did make lots of money. It's just, yeah, the Sony president at the time was being a complete narcissist, and he took it personally that Andrew Garfield didn't show up for these press tours and called in sick. Like, oh, completely stupid. That's probably also why he'll never get the third movie, because I'm sure a lot of the people at Sony are still there from his time when he got basically fired, and they don't want to see him succeed or get his other movie, because that would personally hurt their feelings. So, anyways, let's continue. Waititi's Star Wars film was originally announced on May 4th, 2020. Oh, that was a long time ago already. Yeah, let's skip ahead. So he's not getting his movie. As for the Charmin Obeyed Chinoy film with Daisy Ridley, it was reported in October by Matthew Bellany at Puck that screenwriter Stephen Knight is off the new Jedi Order film project. Bellany added, Lucasfilm is now hunting for a new writer on New Jedi Order. That's a weird way to say that, but which almost certainly means the film will not be ready by December 2026, the date Disney has staked out for a Star Wars release. Oh, so let's see. It's almost, so that's 2 years and 1 month. That is, assuming that they do no shows, I think people will still be burnt out by that time, but I think there's still a whole plethora of shows and maybe even some movies coming in the meantime. This report comes following Daisy Ridley claiming that things are evolving with the film during a screening for her recent film, Magpie. She added, "I continue to be very excited. There will be an update soon." Sorry to say, no one's excited about you. You were the most bland character in Star Wars. You were basically the Bella from Twilight, shoved into the Star Wars universe. No one really cared about you. You were a blank slate. Maybe a bit better actor than Bella from Twilight, but oof. As far as Knight being off the project, this was not surprising. Back in September, Scooper and entertainment analyst WD Pro speculated that Knight had moved on, given he announced that he plans to open a studio in Los Angeles to film Peaky Blinders. Following this report, WD Pro speculated he is wrapped up in opening studios. That is no small endeavor, and our understanding was he was supposed to be working with the Ray movie with Charmin, with Lucasfilm, and that would be an ongoing process. It seems to us, Lauren, and again, could be wrong here, but seems that he is now going to be working on Peaky Blinders thing. And that makes us wonder if either the Ray movie has been delayed such that he can work on this for years and years and come back to it later. He's been removed and nobody knows it yet, which would not portend well with the Ray movie either. So that's where we are being led to believe that perhaps the Ray movie has experienced even more hiccups. And even if it comes through, like, no one's excited about it. I mean, who's really excited about Ray? Ray Palpatine. So yeah. We're still going hard into the Daisy Ridley trilogy. They still haven't learned from the backlash. Kathleen Kennedy, her like retirement baby, as reported, was going to be Indiana Jones. That flopped. So now I think she's banking on these 3 Daisy Ridley movies for Star Wars to go out on a high note. But she hired writer Simon Kinberg, who has disaster after disaster. And like this article says, apparently the 355, which I have no idea what it is, was a disaster too, because I hear anything he's attached to and I just completely opt out ever since X-Men 3. I've seen X-Men Dark Phoenix. I've seen parts of his other projects, and they're all terrible. He is a terrible writer, and after X-Men 3, he should have been kicked out of the industry, or at least sidelined to never work in superheroes, or maybe even just doing his own stuff and never be allowed to touch IP in the first place that isn't his. Um, yeah, I have such disdain for Simon Kinberg. He ruined a possibly great trilogy because at the time, superhero movies were not well regarded. X-Men came out, even the normies loved it. Um, I think even my father watched it, and the closest he's ever come to superhero movies is maybe Blade 1 and 2. Absolutely loved it, but that was another big one at the time. But yeah, normies weren't really into superhero movies, and then X-Men 1 and 2 came out, and people loved it, even if you knew nothing about X-Men. But the third one, ooh, I don't know anybody who, fans or not, that watched and liked it. Sometimes you find and talk to people that know nothing about Phoenix, Dark Phoenix, and they thought it was okay. Like those people generally don't know about X-Men in general, but the sentiment usually is that X-Men 3 shouldn't have happened. It's a terrible movie, and like a lot of trilogies, the third is the worst of the bunch. But yeah, he got to write Dark Phoenix. They brought him back. He did exactly the same story. The shitty Dark Phoenix take he had in X-Men 3, and he killed off the professor, and he did all the same stuff. It was a bit more pandering because it was made after 2016, so he had that going against it as well. And it's just, how do these people continue getting a job? Wouldn't it be amazing if your average Joe, if people like us could go to work or do something and fail this spectacularly over and over and over and over and still get work and still be paid millions and millions of dollars for being such a screw up as he is. Just, if we can be jealous of anything, it's just of being able to be that naive and that incompetent and still somehow make a living and still somehow be hired by these studios. It's absolutely ridiculous, and this is why Hollywood is failing. And I'm glad more people are coming around. I do wish though that this article did state that this guy has heavy ties to X-Men 3, and it's just, this is not going to go well. I think we all knew that, but with this writer attached, Simon Kinberg, all hope is lost. But this is Disney for you. Anyways, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening to my rambling. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. I'll be doing more reactions. Hopefully, I get back to live streaming Metaphor and a few of the other games that I've lined up. What is it? The new Metro game came out for VR. It's just the reason that I've been covering VR a lot lately. Usually, it takes up maybe about 20% of my playtime for games, but there's just been so many great games lately, and I have a lot to catch up on. But yeah, I'm not sure what's coming next. Anyways, stay tuned, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for joining. See ya.